Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Scotty, and I'm here with someone I'm not sure I recognize. Audience, who you are. Welcome to the show. I'm sure it's your first time.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure being on this show. I am happy that you invited me for this one off episode, and I'm very excited to give my thoughts on Into Miami. I've been watching the show for a while, and I'm looking forward to being a small part of its success, if anything.
It says here that your name is Mo Salah. Is that correct?
That is absolutely true. I am the Indian Mo Salah, as they
As
say.
as long as you can fill the role of Bozo, I think you'll be fine for this episode.
Hey, I'm the secondary bozo. You are obviously the head bozo. So as long as we're sticking to our roles, that's what matters, right?
I am a knucklehead, not a bozo. I've told you this many times. Saur,
Fair
welcome
enough.
back. It has been a long time since we've recorded together. We didn't do an episode last week. I know you were very busy this weekend. So, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to Inter Miami World. It's a very fun and interesting time to come. We have plenty to talk about. How are you feeling?
I don't want to give away the backstage secrets, but for those of you a little confused, Scotty's slightly upset with me because I have been pushing off this episode a lot. My schedule has not been able to match up, but I am very excited to be back. I have missed you guys. I've missed this podcast. And looks like Inter Miami's finally got its shit together. Excuse my language, right? We finally got a result against the top side in the Eastern Conference. Wow. Look at us making strides in the right direction. Maybe I should take longer breaks.
I don't think that is the correct solution, but I think we should talk about this game on Saturday night. Because Inter Miami does get a road draw against the top team in the Eastern Conference, or who were the top team in the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia Union, 3-3, and I think a very dramatic and fun ending to that game. And so I think that Inter Miami fans should have left that game feeling really, really good. I got to spend 40 minutes talking about it after the game. So I want to get your top line thoughts. How did you feel about the game once you finally got a chance to watch it?
I watched it after the fact, so I already knew what the score was. And I'll be honest, I was less excited by the result towards the end. I thought Inter Miami was just as dismal as they've been over the last 2 months. Didn't necessarily show too many improvements, and eventually had to rely on a bit of Messi magic towards the end to get us out, and then Segovia stepping up. I will say for neutrals, it was a phenomenal game. Went down to the wire, and it was quite back and forth at the end where Philadelphia had a couple of really good opportunities, hit the post, almost took it to 4-1. Inter Miami crawled back to 3-2, and then that last minute phenomenal strike by Segovia. So exciting end to the game, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm still quite numb and emotionless to how this is going to affect our future. I know we're going to talk about that for sure, but it just feels like one amongst the many results that we've seen over the last few weeks. But this is where Inter Miami's at. I listened to your post game reaction as well, and you're right to suggest that for a team that's basically fighting for the mid positions in the Eastern Conference, this is a good result against the top Eastern Conference team. So perhaps that's what we should be visualizing this result as, and not as one where a MLS Cup contender dropping points against Philadelphia, which they should technically beat. But it is what it is. You have to contextualize this in the grand scheme of things. Inter Miami is not in good form. So I'm glad that we were able to get at least 1 point from this game. I was speaking to a few people outside, and my predictions for this game were Inter Miami dropping all 3 points. I never actually go against my own club, but it just didn't feel like we were capable of winning. So the fact that we actually grinded it out, got the result, at least some positive in it.
Yeah, I think that's well put. Listen, guys, we're going to change it up a little bit today because it's been a while since the game. And I think with so much going on, it's more interesting to do it the way we're going to. Normally, we would talk about the big moments, break down how the game transpired, talk a little tactics, and then get to awards. I think we're going to start with awards today and then maybe finish with some bigger picture conversations. And then we'll sprinkle in some talk about, the big moments and the tactics as we go along. Does that work with you, my friend?
What the knucklehead says goes for the little bozo. So I'm absolutely fine with this.
Okay, then let's start off with awards. And because you got to go first last time, I will go first this time. And as a reminder, the game changed in the 87th minute when Lionel Messi hits a free kick that makes it 3-2, but I thought changed the entire vibe of Inter Miami. The confidence lifted, the team lifted. There were suddenly a huge amount of fight and desire and willpower in this team in a way that we haven't seen much of, including in the 15-20 minutes before this. It had seemed like every time they went down, down 2 goals, they immediately fell on their face and it kind of felt like they gave up. That didn't happen in this game. I directly give credit to Lionel Messi for a phenomenal free kick. I don't know if you rewatched the highlights, but that goalkeeper is about 3 feet from his near post and he still doesn't get there in time. He doesn't get shot off balance going the other way or anything. It's just pure precision and power from Lionel Messi. And that's why he gets the Heron of the match. It has been, I think, disappointing from him lately, not because he's played poorly, but because he hasn't done the things he's really capable of, the Messi magic type things. This was that. It was awesome to watch, and it's the reason Inter Miami got a point in this game. Give me Lionel Messi Heron in the match.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you hadn't given him this Heron of the match, I would have given him another award. There's a lot of talking points about Messi, and since we're talking about him, let's get into the full discussion. But I think at the top, this is what this team needed: the leader to come out and say, "Listen, guys, we're 3-1 down. This has been the story for the last 2 months. Every time we go down 2 goals, it's just been diabolical. Everyone puts their heads down, and we just don't have any fight in us. Let me show you how it's done." That free kick had no business going in. I have no idea how that went in. It was a brilliantly taken free kick. Exactly what Messi is capable of. We've seen chatter online of people saying Messi shouldn't be on free kicks anymore. Listen, if he misses like 3 out of 5 and then puts in those kind of free kicks and generates that kind of a response from the team, you absolutely need to have him on every single free kick. I agree with your decision to give him Heron of the match. My big discussion point has been Messi's contributions to this team over the last few games. And it's worrying. I think it's become not symptomatic of what Messi is doing as such. I don't think he's fallen down a level as a player by any means. I think he's just as magical when he needs to be, and he turns it up when things are around him are set up for success. And that's the biggest issue that I have. I think we're just not utilizing the best of Messi by the system that we play, by the tactics that we're playing, and now the mindset and the psychological way that this team has been carrying itself. I think it's weighing everybody down, and you can see that on Messi as well. And there's a reason I say that. I think this probably was the first game that he had 0 key passes. That's unheard of from Messi, who would genuinely last season at this time he would have at least 6 or 7 key passes, and we'd be complaining why isn't anyone finishing those. So I think there's a general conversation to be had about how are we even utilizing Messi and what are we doing to get the best out of him, because at the end of the day he's the linchpin, he's the central figure that brings this team forward. And I think right now is just a reflection of where this team is at, where even the best player in the world is unable to provide those key cutting passes to be able to generate any sort of chances. And it's only down to him that we were even able to come back into this game. He combined with Segovia for that last goal as well. Of course, the major credit for that last goal goes to Segovia, but I think there needs to be a larger conversation about how are we now trying to get the best out of Messi with how we're playing, because it feels like we've almost just fallen into this lull of it's happening, let's let it happen. It's weird.
I want to come back to this moment when we finish awards because, and Miami King says this in the chat, he hopes that this Messi free kick goal is the turning point for the season. I think there's a chance it might be. And one of the concerns I had going into this game was, and as the game was sort of unfolding, Messi put a lot of his like political capital into this result over the week and a half, the week before, going and giving that interview after the Orlando City game, the players only meeting, all that kind of stuff. You could tell that he, not just the team, but he was really trying to sort of will something into existence. And I was very nervous that if they didn't get a result in this game, it would have felt like that was like our last resort, was to have Messi really sort of
And a
try and
question on
get the
his
team
credibility as well, right? Like his ability to pull this team together.
right. And so and not just his ability, but anyone's ability. Like if even Messi can't do it,
then nobody can do it.
Then we might actually be in real trouble here. And so,
well, we are in real trouble, by the way. Just saying.
We can get to that, but the fact that he ends up not just willing a team to success, or at least a result, but the fact that he is an instrumental part in the turning point in this game, huge. And so, for the psychology of this team, I was worried, and the bullet they shot last week in terms of trying to get this team up didn't fire a blank. It was something. And I think that was really positive and sort of much needed.
And just to put a bow on this conversation, I think what I was trying to get at with my point was, don't listen to those people who say that Messi is washed. It's not that. He hasn't lost form. It's the fact that we're not functioning as a team right now in a manner that best suits everyone, all 11 players on the pitch, and everyone is feeling it, including the greatest player who's ever played this sport. So I'm glad that he was able to turn this team around. And honestly, this needs to be a starting point for something fresh this season, and for us to actually now start to put some results together, because it felt good towards the end. It felt like the team wanted it. We may not have been able to get the final result, all 3 points, but we still salvaged something out of it. And Messi was the key linchpin for that. So agree with you.
Okay, let's get to Heron that flew north. And that's your awards. I will let you go first.
Luis Suarez. Full stop, period. Do you want to talk about him?
Harsh, I think. Here's what I will say. The referee gave them a third goal that there's no reason should have been awarded. That was an obvious offside. So I think if you had given it to the referee in this one occasion, I wouldn't have let you do it, but I would have understood.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
How many shots do you think Luis Suarez had this game?
0. One, but not on target.
He had 0 shots on target and 1 shot. For a striker, that is not enough. I don't care who you are. That is not enough. There's something clearly wrong. He needs to sit, man. He really needs to sit, because at this point, we're playing with 10 men. He had some 20 passes, and I think of those, he completed like 15. But there were so many moments where we were trying to build something up, and he would just give the ball away without any explanation, no pressure, no difficult situation. He would just pass it back to the to the opposition, and you're just sitting there wondering, why don't you just hold the ball a little bit? It's not enough for our leading striker, and it's really making this team struggle. We've had to rely on everybody else around us to pull those goals. And let's be honest, Luis Suarez at this time last season was hitting phenomenal numbers, MVP level numbers, and that's why Inter Miami was on track to score the highest number of goals. And those goals have not just reduced, they've dried up. And he's a big part of why we're not being able to score goals. He's not making the runs. He's not holding up the ball. He's not even making assists anymore. Earlier in the season, you could argue, okay, he's got a lot of goal contributions. He may not be scoring goals, but at least he's getting involved. Now he's, I think, impeding in our normal state of play. I think towards the end of this game, we were able to pull something together because Messi was able to combine with other players around him. He was able to combine with Alba, with Segovia, with Redondo for some parts. But generally, I think the Messi-Suarez connection has just not worked. There are a lot of factors to that. Messi falling a lot deeper is one, as Summer mentioned in the chat. But I think Suarez has lost his spark as a striker, and he needs to at least play a few games off the bench, if not completely be benched, because you need to change something up top. And I want to see Javier Mascherano make that bold decision of dropping him, because it's not working out for me, man. And I don't think I'm the only Inter Miami fan who thinks this way. I think it's bad. Your number 9 can't be having 0 shots on target in a game. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't have any excuse or sort of response. Honestly, it was really poor, I thought, from him. I thought the last game against Orlando City was also really poor, and then he missed the 2 games before that for the wedding. So it's been a really bad couple weeks for him from an Inter Miami fan's perspective. Listen, he's going to start. He's going to continue to start. And I don't have an answer on how you make it work. So, that's why Javier Mascherano and his staff get paid the big bucks. Do we just sign Cristiano Ronaldo? Because I don't know what other solution is going to put him on the bench. Like, he's going to continue playing because he's Luis Suarez, and I don't have an answer for you. He needs to play a little bit better.
That's my biggest problem, right?
I still think our play style is not conducive to get the best out of him. Until that changes, we're not going to get the best out of him. But I also think that that's not an excuse if you're Luis Suarez. You know what I mean?
2 questions. What is our play style? And if it's not getting the best out of our number 9 striker, then what are we even doing with that play style? So
I agree.
It's so frustrating, because if it was anybody else, no matter how big of a name, they would have been dropped, because these are bad numbers. These are really bad numbers. And yes, he might string a few really good performances together, and then we can have that conversation about what are we doing to get the best out of Luis Suarez. But right now, there needs to be a change up top. You can immediately see a difference when Allende is playing in that position. Even Alan Abondo playing in that position offers a little bit of a different energy up top that we lack with Suarez. And at some points, I feel for the majority of the game, we're just playing with 10 men, because Suarez is not a focal point. He's not a target man. He doesn't press from the top. That's fine. He doesn't even hold up the ball anymore. His passing is all over the place, and it's just counterproductive to us trying to build, because every time we lose the ball, our defense just crumbles and gets run over by the opposition. So that adds to the pressure. We need that front man to lead from the front, because that's the job. Regardless, I just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation about Luis Suarez. I'm very frustrated with him, and I hope that he sees the bench soon. But I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen.
I want to have a solution, and that's what I want to talk about. I don't have a solution. And while nothing you said is wrong, I think a lot of the sort of instant reactions are pretty generic and not necessarily like they're simple and easy. Put him on the bench, or, he needs to be shooting more. Like, it feels like simple solutions, but the truth is I don't have one that I think is, going to actually work and fix things. So I don't really know what you do as Inter Miami. I really don't.
I'll be honest with you. I think the problem is so deep right now that it requires a simple solution. I don't think you can change up tactics or do anything that will integrate Suarez in that front line, because he's short of confidence. That's obviously clear in front of goal. And we don't necessarily have the tactical acumen in the coaching staff to be able to change things around right now. You need something fresh up top. I think the solution is simple. It's not a nuanced discussion about what's going to happen, because if your player is not performing, I think that's the answer that you have. Regardless, I think we can move on to the next award. But for me, he was the heron that flew north this game.
Yeah, I just want to leave it on something smart, not just like simple and obvious. Because I agree with you, he's not played well, but I think maybe we should just keep this Suarez conversation in mind when we talk about the bigger picture. because it's all integrated. It's not just Suarez not playing well. That's our problem. And I want to make sure I make that clear. It's not like putting him on the bench for Alnabanda will just fix all our problems. Not saying he's not a problem, but I'm just saying like I think this is much more complicated than that. And I just want to keep that in mind as we sort of talk about some of the other things we're going to talk about. Okay. My first award, let's see. I'm going to give the 2 of Spades award.
The 2 of Spades award. The 2 of Spades is like a really important card in a deck. I don't remember which game it's important in, but I just know it's important for some reason. And I'm going to say the 2 of Spades award goes to Jordi Alba. Oh, no, I got it. The 2 of Spades award goes to Noah Allen, because not only can he play the centre-back position, but can also now play the left-back position where he puts in really good crosses and gets an assist and gets into Miami back into the game. It's Noah Allen for 2 of Spades.
Couldn't be less wrong. Sometimes you got to call a spade. And there's only one player who wears number 2 on our team, and that's Gonzalo Luhan. Some of the things I saw and heard about his performance on Twitter and on in the comments and from other people blew my mind, because he was bad in this game. And while he was better in this game than I think he's been in a lot of games, that should not be confused for being good. He had a number of clearances.
He was awful.
He had a number of clearances that were something he hasn't done a ton of, especially in the first half. But in that same situation, Noah Allen would have stolen the ball and started a possession, and instead he kicks it 15 yards into the seats. He is absolutely 99.9% responsible for that number 2 goal. He would have been my Heron that flew north, by the way.
I agree with you.
This was his best game. This was his best game in Inter Miami. He had a number of clearances, but he was still bad. And so I want to applaud him for stepping up his game, but I got to call a spade a spade. And this award has more to do with some of the people I saw saying he played well or he had a good game. He was bad, and it was worse when you rewatched it. I don't understand what the coach sees in this player. Some people, people on Twitter or whatever that are saying he had a good game in our comment section. I wish I saw what you guys saw, because just so bad. I got to call a spade a spade. He was poor in this game.
No, don't give him that. He wasn't good or better than he was usually been. I watched that game in slow motion, by the way, because I rewatched a few key moments. And I agree, he had a couple of clearances at the start, but they were very normal clearances that you
very normal.
You would make those clearances as well, by the way. He just ran in, timed the ball, and booted it out. That's it. Nothing spectacular, nothing extraordinary. Very, very basic. For the rest of the game, he was terrible. He was really bad. I had him as my top contender for Heron that flew north, but I didn't give it to him because I didn't want to be mean, because we continue to rail on Gonzalo Luhan. But now that you've started it, I'm going to proceed and continue with it. I had an award for him as well. It was called We Made the Bed Award, because it looks like we made the bed by giving him a TAM deal, and now we have to lie in it because he started 3 of the last 4 games, and it's inexplicable and absolutely mind-blowing to me how he continues to start over players like David Martinez, Maxi Falcon, Toto Aviles for large parts, and he didn't have a good game. He wasn't good. He was culpable for that second goal. He basically did not put in the right challenge at the right time. Ty Baribo was able to get that ball into the net. He had a couple of other moments as well where I was like, what are you even doing? He wasn't good. He was not good. And you're right. Call him a spade, because he's a very average player, and it really shows. It really shows in that back line. We've conceded 18 goals in the last 6 games. Of those 3 games, Gonzalo Luhan has started. Maybe more. I'll have to check. He's probably started
Can,
more than those in those
can,
6 games.
can I say our offense dried up when Ian Frey came out of the lineup after when Chelowigan came back from injury? That's when our offense sort of fell apart. Our defense fell apart when Gonzalo Luhan started playing every game. It's true.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. No, he wasn't good.
Um,
He wasn't good at all.
I don't. Should we just move on? It's only going to get meaner from here.
No,
We've
I
said
yeah, I
everything we need
agree
to
with
say.
you, but I just want
Okay.
to say that this is a very average MLS level player, if that,
No,
and he shouldn't
no,
be
no, no, no,
starting for
no.
Inter Miami.
He's not an MLS level player, and I
Yeah.
think that's the whole point. He doesn't have the physical capacity to be an MLS player. He is going to end up next year on loan at a league that is less athletic, like the Argentine league. And it's a shame that Miami's going to have to pay a bunch of that salary, but at least it won't affect the roster rules. So whatever. It just okay. What's your first award?
So I'm really proud of this award, and I want you to appreciate it because it's got levels and depths to it.
Okay.
This is the To Steal Like a Seagull award.
To steal like a seagull. Okay, my mind went somewhere, and if it's not the right place, we're going to be so off on where this is going. Okay, so I'm thinking Brighton because of the seagulls. And to steal like a seagull is to go find an absolute gem at a bargain price, which is exactly what Brighton does. And that's exactly what Inter Miami did with Telasco Segovia by getting him for a cheap deal. And he came to Inter Miami to help us get 1 point on the road to Philadelphia. Boom, bang. Let's get it.
You started off so well. And then you absolutely nailed it because that's the exact explanation. Well, slightly different. So, to steal like a seagull. Seagull, Brighton, absolutely spot on. You're showing your football knowledge. To steal, stole the point at the death of the game by scoring that beautiful goal. And the reason I use the seagull reference is because he has been a player similar to our one and only Diego Gomez. Shout out for getting your first Premier League goal, by the way.
Banger.
Who has been misprofiled as a left winger, continues to be played in that role. And then as soon as Yannick Bright went off, Sergio Busquets went in the back line, Telasco Segovia went into the middle. He was a
Luhan went off.
much more effective player. Sorry, Luhan went off. He was a much more effective player. And much like Diego Gomez, who's now a Seagull, he's been misprofiled. And once you actually profile him in the right place, he's going to score you bangers, much like Diego Gomez. And of course, I like the added element of Brighton goes out and buys gems. Who's a gem? Telasco Segovia. To steal like a seagull, Telasco Segovia. I hate the fact that Yannick Bright is injured. It's going to be devastating for this Inter Miami midfield if it's long term. But if you do not use this as an excuse to play a midfield three of Segovia, Busquets, and Redondo, or even Busquets and Segovia, I don't know what you're doing as a coach. This is the perfect time to play Segovia in the middle. Please, I beg you, Mascherano, listen to this podcast, make it happen, because Segovia in the middle solves so many of your issues.
I didn't lose faith, but I was questioning my own understanding at some point with this player because I had enormously high expectations for him. I loved what I saw on film. I loved the versatility. I loved the stats that he came in with and the league he came from. Like everything about this player screamed a success to me, instant success to me. And we saw it right away. But then it really got quiet from him. But every time he plays where he's supposed to be playing, he cooks. He's so good. And he gets not just the winner, but he almost gets the equalizer in, I don't know, 65th minute or something like that with the header, just half a yard off sides. But he came on and was, an engine of the offense in a way that I think he's going to be 8 out of 10 games if you play him in the right spot because he's that talented.
Dude, we're talking about solutions, right? We're talking about a nuanced conversation.
By the way, great award. Proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. You're talking about a nuanced conversation with what to do with Suarez, what to do with Messi, a lot of these players. I think The most basic issue with this team is picking the wrong players in the back line. You have to do that first to actually stop the leaking goals. But I think for your offense, the reason you're not scoring that goals is because a lot of these players are playing in positions that are unfamiliar to them, but also positions that they're not thriving in. And for me, yes, keep Suarez up top, but you need to give him certain instructions. Do not keep coming back or dropping back. Stay up top. You need to be in the box to finish off the chances that are dropping to you. You solve the problem by filling up that gulf between Suarez and the midfield by putting in Segovia, who's the perfect 8-10 hybrid. He will play off so well with both Suarez if Suarez stays up top and Messi if you push Messi back to right wing, that it allows you to create really good triangles in that front line, which will inevitably get us results. That's how you start to build this team. You build that midfield properly, whether it's a 3-man midfield with Segovia, Bright, and Busquets, or now since Bright is injured, Segovia, Redondo, and Busquets. And you'll start to see some different things because there are going to be players on that pitch who are doing multiple different roles and roles they're suited to performing. Segovia as at 8 and 10 is definitely something we need to use more of because that gets us goals every single time he's playing that position. And I can't believe Javier Mascherano hasn't cracked that. And if he has and he still refuses to play him in that position, then God help him to Miami.
Yeah, listen, we've had this conversation about Segovia and other players playing out of position a lot. So I will leave it there, but he's just a really quality player, and it's just a shame that we don't get him where he's supposed to be playing more often. But, well, we'll get to that conversation later. Okay, my second and final award is the Bootstraps and Hand Grenades Award.
The Bootstraps and Hand Grenades Award. Is this a reference to the military? Well, obviously it is. Some sort of reference.
No.
Bootstraps and hand
I
grenades.
don't think so.
Hand grenades. Throw the hand grenades. Lands in the spot and blows up. Jordi Alba, because he throws the hand grenade into the middle of the box and it explodes and results in a goal. I don't know. I lost all my brain cells trying to think of that award. So I'm done. I'm checked out for the rest of this episode.
There's a saying that goes, close only counts with horseshoes and hand grenades. And so I want you to remember that because that's the second part of this. And then bootstraps, because I have a player that needs to pick himself up by the bootstraps and not just be close to where he needs to be, but to be where he needs to be. And that's Federico Redondo. Because Yannick Bright is injured. He's not going to play on Wednesday night. Probably, I would be shocked if he played either Wednesday or Saturday against Columbus, which means Federico Redondo is going to have to step up. And unlike Gonzalo Luhan, who I think is probably not really prepared to play real minutes in the MLS, not just for Inter Miami, but for anybody, Federico Redondo is an MLS caliber player. He's not as good as Yannick Bright. It's incredibly disappointing when the coach prefers Redondo in big games over Bright. But he belongs on the roster. No doubt about that in terms of his talent. It's not like he doesn't belong on this team. And now he's going to have to step up for at least the next 2 games and potentially much more than that, including on a really big stage. So I need him to pull up his bootstraps, lace him up, and get ready to not just be close, but to be on point with his performances over the next couple weeks. Give me Federico Redondo balling out over the next until Yannick Bright comes back. That's my award.
Great award, by the way, and a player that I didn't have an award for, so I'm glad you spoke about him because boy, does he need to now step up. He's filling in big boots. We all had high expectations of Yannick Bright, and every single game he just surpasses those. Redondo is one player that has definitely been a letdown, if we're all being honest to ourselves, has never really fulfilled his potential. And for good measure, he's competing for a spot in that midfield with whether it's Yannick Bright or somebody else. And he's not a clear starter. By the looks of it, if Yannick Bright is out for at least the next month or medium to long term, Redondo is going to be the one chosen to take that role. and he has to really get his game together, because not only does he have to be defensively solid, but he's now playing in an Inter Miami team that can't uplift him anymore and can't necessarily cover his lack of performances by others around him doing better. This is an Inter Miami team where every single player is struggling for confidence, and he needs to step up as well. And whether he's playing defensive midfield or whether he's playing slightly higher up the pitch, we'll see. But he really needs to get a good run of form together, because it's going to be crucial for our results over the next few games.
What an opportunity to go to a midfield three. You nailed it. If you put Redondo, Busquets, and Segovia in one midfield, I will question the athleticism. I'd want to see it first, but it could be really sparkly and awesome and fun. So that's what I would try on Wednesday night against a Montreal team that's not that good. And I actually have a feeling Redondo's going to step up. I just have a good feeling about it.
I would love that, because I want nothing more than an Inter Miami player to actually step up and be able to contribute, right? And yeah, I would absolutely love that if that happens.
By the way, in this game, Yannick Bright, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but he has this role where he kind of plays both as like a number 8 and a number 6 in terms of
he's playing box to box now. Yeah,
he's playing box to box, but he still has the defensive responsibilities, and he's not always in the right place at the right time because he's trying to do that two-way role, which I appreciate. And I think he's doing it relatively well, and he's showing parts of his game we didn't see last year. So when we talk about Yannick Bright, I feel very positive about it. But when we're talking about the team, it makes me curious on like, what is the strategy there? What is the point of doing that? Because he's so exceptional playing behind Busquets as opposed to playing in front of him. But I do think that's a role that could fit Federico Redondo a little bit better. So I want to see it. I have a good feeling about Redondo this week. That's all I'll say.
What better way than to show up against another really poor team? So hopefully he steps up. All right, I will, in my defense, say that, as I mentioned, all my intellectual prowess went into the first award, so this next award might be slightly poor. But I'm going to go for Look How They Massacred My Boy award.
I mean, I love the name of the award. We'll see if it all comes together. But Look How They Massacred My Boy. What is this from?
This is from the single greatest movie in cinematic history, The Godfather.
Oh, yeah. Obviously. Duh. That doesn't really help me, though. This is Ian Frey, because you feel like too many people have given him criticism, unjustified, for his performances over the last 2 games. And you think that it's an unbelievable shame.
You know what happens when I leave for a little bit?
I get really good at guessing.
You get really good at guessing, and we both come on the same page when we're talking. So you've absolutely nailed both my awards. And
boom, bang, baby.
Ian Frey for Look How They Massacred My Boy. First of all, this is a player who hasn't been given an opportunity to continue playing regular games so that he is in game shape. He goes up against Indiana Vassilev, who's really good, and also a Philadelphia team whose offense is absolutely thriving right now. And then you put him next to, well, in this game, he was next to Toto Avilés, but he also gets put into these positions where the defense is being just constantly moved around. You play a 2-man backline first, you play a 3-man backline first. Offensively, Ian Frey is far and beyond anything you have on this team in that right wing back role. No comparison. Chelo Wigan doesn't come close. Gonzalo Luhan doesn't come close. Defensively, he's struggling a little bit. And you've always mentioned this, that when you're a defender, you need to play continuously to be able to build those minutes and that game sense and IQ to understand where you need to position yourself against different oppositions. This is a backline that is collectively not performing together. And we are suffering both in terms of switching up a lot of the tactics, whether we're playing now a 3-man backline, 4-man, the personnel going in and out. So there's no chemistry in that backline either. And in that situation, when you're expecting a 20-year-old to be the best performing player in your backline and then you criticize him the way you do, I think that's unjustified. And there needs to be a much more measured conversation about Ian Frey when it comes to his poor performances, because I think in the grand scheme of things, once again, the conversation comes down to the same thing. It's not about the player, it's about how you're using the player. And I just don't think he's been set up for success. He's basically been used as a piece that's a throwaway piece for when we need to rest Jello Wigan. And that's a disservice to his quality and talent.
I think it's also a matter of expectations. Like, we have really hyped up Ian Frey, and I don't think his performances have lived up to the hype we've given him. But that's probably also our fault. And so when you're expecting something really special from him, like a 2-assist game, which he gave us against Dallas, and then you don't get that, you feel worse about him compared to like a Gonzalo Luhan, where you feel like you're going to get beat 4 times on the counter and give up 3 goals because of it. And then when that exact thing happens, but it looks a little bit better than usual, you think he had a good game. When in reality, this actual standards are, sort of how we compare our players to their performances. Ian Frey, I think, was below his ability over the last 2 games, including on Saturday night. That doesn't change anything about how I feel about him belonging in this starting lineup. And I like the fact that we're starting, hopefully, to get him a real run. But of course, he came out in the 60th minute when Javier Mascherano didn't feel good about what was happening. So
we did well.
I think it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do awards at the beginning every time when my brain is still fresh.
I know.
Okay. Anything else on Ian Frey? Anybody else you wanted to give an award to? I had one for Segovia, but yours was better. Although I did like I thought mine was good, but I'll save it for another time.
Keep it for the next one, yeah.
Aviles gets a start. He starts a goal-scoring moment, and then he gets pulled off during the celebration of the goal. Can't believe that happened. In favor
Allen,
of Luhan.
I think, as well, was good.
As a left back, he had an assist.
Yeah.
And Busquets goes to the back line in the final 15 minutes of the game. This is the second time in a row that they've done this, or second time they've done this in the past couple of weeks. And our offense suddenly kicks into high gear, and we look like the better team. In the 78th minute, Fajabico comes onto the field. Gonzalo Luhan gets taken off, and Busquets goes to the back line. And it was the last 10 minutes when Busquets is back there that we looked our best. And then it was the same thing in the last 15 minutes of that San Jose game a week and a half ago. So I do wonder if there's something there.
I think it has to do with more how you're shaping the offense rather than putting Sergio Busquets in the back line.
I agree, but you keep him on the field, and he's going to be on the field.
Yeah,
and it allows you to have a different midfield and a different attack. So
I do think over the course of 90 minutes, it's not the ideal strategy to have him in the back line all the time, especially how slow the rest of the back line also is. So really depends on who the opposition is. But again, it's a tool in your toolbox that you need to utilize from time to time. So the changes were fine. And I agree, we looked a lot better once Sergio Busquets moved into the back end. But honestly, at that point, it was a Hail Mary. So Inter Miami didn't really have to care too much about what's going to happen the other way, and they had to put all the focus on the final third. So for that moment in the game, I think it was a really good decision to have him in the back line.
Yeah. Anyone else you want to talk about?
No, I think in terms of players...
Should we talk about Aviles before we don't get a chance to for another month?
I think we should, right? He's a starter for this team, man. I don't know what he's doing in that. I understand you switching him out with Allen and Falcon, but I don't understand why he's being A, not utilized enough, and then B, being pigeonholed into a DM role when he shouldn't even be there. So no idea. He puts in a clean performance every single time he's on the pitch. And by that, I don't mean get yellow cards, not get yellow cards. I mean, just in terms of how he performs in that pitch, it just looks so easy with him.
Yeah. I think he went to defensive midfielder because Javier Mascherano was trying to find a position for him because he felt that Aviles was like 5th on the depth chart. And it's crazy because with the way we are trying to play and the sort of responsibilities we need out of our center back, he is physically the best fit. And it's, you could say Falcon's a little bit smarter or whatever, but It's crazy to me that he's been sort of put behind. And we saw in this game the length, the athleticism, the daringness, the willingness to play a high line, all of those things that should make him an obvious starter. Anyways, Cello comes into this game. Yannick Bright goes out. Okay, let's sort of talk big picture. And let's start with Yannick Bright, because we don't know how long he's going to be out for. But basically any amount of – it's already been too long. He missed the last 50 minutes of this game, and it's already been too long. Is there any chance he was the problem?
Why?
You know what?
Why?
I don't have an explanation. I just thought we should set the standard.
No. It's good to self-reflect and evaluate and critique and have a more 360-degree perspective. So, no, I don't think he was the problem by any means, or he can be the problem by any means, because he's the only player on this team that can actually defend. And the best part is he's not even being asked to do that fully. So, no, absolutely not. He was not the reason, no.
You know, I had this realization during the game that when we traded Robert Taylor, we actually traded our soul. And all we did it for was some allocation money, which is exactly what this team would do. Trade their soul for some allocation money. Okay, let's get to the bigger pictures. Did Messi change the season in the 87th minute of this game?
I think it's slightly premature to say that. He definitely lifted the vibes, and it gave us as fans something to cheer about. I've been saying this every single time we have a poor performance, or every single time we actually come back and show a glimpse of promise after a poor performance. You have to build these up over time. You can't have 1 15-minute mark during the game where you're really good, and then the next game you follow it up with nothing, flat. So you have to build on that feeling, on that vibe, on that energy, on the tactics that you were employing, on the positions the players were playing, on the impetus that you were putting into your offense. Because for 85 minutes, I saw a team who's having 60% possession, but not taking any shots, not creating any clear-cut opportunities. And then suddenly when we were under the cosh, we're like, oh, we need to really push this. And you started to see us play. Now, whether it's because we're doing it because we're like, you know what, screw the tactics, screw what the coach has told us, we just have to go out and get a goal. So that makes us play better. But we have to build on this. You can't just take this as, oh, now the season's changed. Next performance against Montreal, you have to show that exact same form that you did in the last 15 minutes. Otherwise, it's all for nothing, right? It's all for nothing.
Can I ask you a question? The 72nd minute, Tyberibo scores goal number 3 for Philadelphia. And then there's 15 minutes before Messi's free kick goal. It didn't feel to me like at any point in that 15 minutes Inter Miami was going to make a comeback. It felt almost exactly like it's felt every other time Miami's gone down 2 goals. They gave up, and not give up's the wrong word. I apologize. I'm not going to put that on. It felt like the spirit drained out of them. They were giving up a ton of chances going the other way. There was like 3 or 4 clear-cut opportunities for Philadelphia to get a 4th goal. Ustari made a nice save or 2. There was one that hit the top of the post. Mm-hmm. But then Messi did the magic thing that Messi does, and then it felt like Inter Miami can't not win this game. I went live like a minute and a half early because I thought, man, they might get a 4th one and just win it because of how energized they looked in the last 5 minutes. They had a nice portion of the game, I thought, from minute like 15 to 30, 10 to 30, where I thought it looked like it was supposed to look. Lots of possession, but not just possession. Possession high up the field. They're poking and prodding.
In wide areas as well.
In wide areas, it was in Philly. They were holding Philadelphia back. Philadelphia was their only chance to escape was to just hit a ball long and try and get a quick transition with 1 or 2 players. But there was no team effort to really create anything for Philadelphia. We had dominated that portion of the game from a flow and pace of the game perspective, not just because the possession numbers look good, but I thought they actually were doing what they were trying to do. I didn't feel like that for most of the rest of the game until the final 10 minutes, where not only did you get the sort of dominating the game perspective, but you also got the chances and the being dangerous that you want to see. And it all started when Messi hits the free kick. So part of me thinks there's a chance that Messi is actually going to just will this team into success. And so there were things I could talk about that I liked, but at the end of the day, he hit a free kick and everyone looked more confident after that. And I'm wondering if that's going to last 10 minutes like it did in this game and it gets them 1 point on the road at Philadelphia, or if it's going to last the rest of Messi's career at Inter Miami, because maybe that's all it takes.
We could have easily lost this game 5-3, but we didn't. We
5-1.
Yeah, we went out, got a result. And sometimes football is a very easy sport. All you have to do is pass the ball and put it at the back of the net. We make it sound complicated because we love to listen to ourselves talk, but it's very
Fair.
simple. And sometimes all it takes is a little bit of motivation, a little bit of ambition, and a little bit of momentum. And what we saw in the last 15 minutes was momentum and energy and belief. And this team, as much as we struggled because of the coaching decisions, because of the tactics, because of the personnel selection, I think we're at a point in our Inter Miami season where it's a psychological aspect as well. We're struggling. We're struggling to do the basics right at times. And you mentioned heads fall. We don't have confidence in ourselves. And sometimes all it takes is to have that little confidence. And that's what Messi did yesterday. Gave us that confidence that, oof, okay, we've got this one. We can get another one. And players have to hold on to that feeling, man. They're all really good players. They all are very talented enough to beat any team in the MLS. And we just have to stick with that confidence. And that's where I guess you lay the foundation, right? A team with broken confidence, no matter how much talent or tactics, will never be able to perform and get results. So lay the foundation with this confidence and then build from there. Hopefully that starts against Montreal and it doesn't take us 85 minutes to get that confidence back.
There was large portions of this game where I thought we might lose to Montreal. Like, Montreal is the second worst team in the MLS, worst team in the Eastern Conference.
After Inter Miami.
No. Well, after Inter Miami, but ahead of the LA Galaxy. They are bad. They don't have good players. They have already fired their coach, and that turned out to be a mistake. They're not good. And there were portions of this game where I thought Miami might lose to Montreal at home. Like, they're one really nice moment from Montreal away from losing 1-0 or, a dumb moment on a set piece and it's a 2-1 loss. Like, that felt real to me at one point on Saturday night. And I don't think I should just erase that because they had 10 good minutes sparked by an incredible moment by Messi. But maybe I should because if they do win against Montreal, because Montreal's a bad team and maybe they have a spark or not, all of a sudden you have some confidence and you actually, Inter Miami does have a pretty good record against Wilfred Nancy's Columbus team. It's actually exceptional considering it's Wilfred Nancy. You find a way to get a win there at home. All of a sudden you get 7 points out of these 3 games. And I do think it might change entirely how you feel about this season. And I don't think it will change how we're going to play at the Club World Cup, but I think it gets you to a point where that first game back against Atlanta is like a full reset for everyone. And if they don't win against Montreal on Wednesday, and if they lose against Columbus on the weekend, we're like still pitchforks and, torches and stuff.
Hopefully we can beat the worst team in the league and then build it from there. And as I said, block by block. I'm still nervous, man. I still see a lot of issues in this team that aren't getting fixed anytime soon. But at this point in the season, I'm holding on to any hope that there is. And the hope that I have is that Messi can will this team on. So we'll see how we perform on Wednesday. But if I see a lot of the same issues against Montreal as well, I'll be very worried for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks going into the Club World Cup and beyond.
I have one. This is what I want to end on. We can talk about something else if you want to, but the last thing I want to talk about is sort of what my expectations of this team are now. Because I think if that's the case, I'm sorry, if they have changed compared to what they were at the beginning of the season, then I think you can feel very differently about this game. Um, and for me, they have. We didn't do a midweek episode last week, and so from the post game against Orlando City, where I said they should fire Javier Mascherano, to the pregame show against Philadelphia, we didn't talk about anything. I kind of just used that time to reflect. And I think it's unfair of me, and I don't want to be the guy that says you got to fire Mascherano every single game. I don't want to be angry about this team every single game. Like, when Messi leaves, we're going to go back to being just an MLS team that wants to win every week, but understands some games are going to be easier than others, and then going on the road is going to be tough and all that stuff. And so it's not lost on me that it's not like I think Inter Miami is Real Madrid and every game forever should be a victory. There will be a point where Inter Miami is no longer expected to be the best team in the league every single time they take the pitch. And I think it's better for me, at least, to just assume that's now, because I do think that's where we're at. And I think it's, for me at least, good to just say we are a good MLS team. And I'm still going to hold them to that standard. But my expectations now are qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup next year. And that's it. I mean, and to do that, they'll have to be, third or fourth in the East. And then, maybe you
See where it takes us. Yeah.
Maybe you do well in the Leagues Cup. Maybe you do well in the MLS Cup playoffs. Like, you hit form at the right time, or Messi has a moment like that where he just wills you to a victory you might not have otherwise had. And you can still do some stuff, but it's more like my expectation is don't ruin next season. And whatever you can get out of this is just a really fun, awesome bonus. And I will be much happier with 1 point at Philadelphia if I take that sort of perspective.
No, I think that's the right mindset to have if you're a rational individual who is mature enough to understand the reality. I'm not there yet because I still feel disappointed from feeling
I feel like
the
you've
team
been 2 weeks behind me on all of this.
I know, yeah. So I feel like I'm still getting to grips with how this team was doubted to take on the whole world, and now we're at the stage where we're barely getting the results that we want. But I think that's the right way to look about this team, right? This is the team that on their day would be able to beat the best in the MLS, but on their day also lose to the worst in the MLS. And it's a 50-50 toss-up. We're probably going to get results against the poorer teams in the MLS, struggle to get results against the best teams in the MLS, and on our day could put on a really good performance, which could end up with us around the third, fourth mark in the East. If that's the case, then this result is fine. Obviously, I think it's a lot of adjustment mentally to get to that point, but good for you for actually realizing that. But I think in terms of expectations now on is just take it game by game. Make sure you finish within that CONCACAF Champions Cup spot so that you don't have to worry about winning the League's Cup or making a really good run in the playoffs, because that could ruin the next season. So make sure your standards don't drop below that. And then anything from there on is an added bonus. I don't think this team is capable of winning the MLS Cup at this point in time. If you take the sample size, League's Cup really depends how we play. Perhaps we can.
It's possible.
It's possible. Exactly. But it's not like we are the favorites to win. By no means. Not even close to that. So, and that's fine. I guess that's what the reality is. We're not the favorites for anything right now. We can't take anything for granted anymore. And this is a team that's going to have to work hard to put the results in and earn their spot for whatever it is now. Talent will only get us that far. That was the case previously as well, but we were head and shoulders above the rest of the MLS for large parts. Now we're not. We're quite further down the pecking order, and you have to take what comes to you. So take game by game and make sure you keep your standards high enough to qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Let's go to the chat for a little bit. Five more minutes with the chat, because there were some really interesting questions that I think are big picture stuff that relate to this. Sergio says, the fact we have to adjust expectations for this season is unforgivable as a supporter. The club leadership is at fault. I 100% agree with you. That's, I think, an entirely fair thing to think and to say out loud. And I feel like I've been trying to say that, perhaps not as eloquently as I would have liked over the past month, but the standards have really fallen. And I don't think Inter Miami fans should just accept it indefinitely. And I hope the club ownership doesn't. And I think it would be a real shame if they do. It is really, really sad. One thing about Javier Mascherano that I sort of dawned on me, but have you ever heard Pep Guardiola after a game without Man City wins 3-0, talks about how his right back wasn't doing the thing he wanted him to do, and he's really frustrated at the little details. And like, it's this true with all sports, right? Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, they do the same thing. They go into their press conference after and they say, listen, our cornerback wasn't, good enough in press man coverage, whatever it is. And they get angry about the littlest details, even though their team just blew out whoever they were playing. And it's the obsession with the little details that A, makes coaches great, B, makes teams great. And it feels like something that's really lacking with this Inter Miami team. So I think it's a real shame, and I think that comes from the coaching staff. Because you hear constant excuses when I think great coaches are saying we can win 4-0 and it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And that's how you get rid of the set piece issues. That's how you get rid of the lack of hustle. That's how you get rid of some of these really small mental mistakes.
Hold players accountable, right? When a player is not performing, you hold them accountable and be like, listen, you're not doing the job that you're supposed to do. And if you don't do that, you have other players who are going to you're going to be replaced with. Hold yourself accountable. Hold the team responsible. They sold us a dream. They sold us a high-performing team that is capable of getting results anywhere. And now we're just struggling to put results together. And you're right. Standards have fallen. And that should be unforgivable.
I also want to say, I think the owners get a lot of blame sometimes because they do charge a lot of money, and I get why that can be very frustrating. I do think they've shown a level of ambition to reach the top that is admirable, and it would be a shame if they were unwilling to do the really hard thing, which is change coaches, because that's when you're talking about personal relationships and all that. So that's really hard. It's one thing to go from regular ambition to really high ambition. It's another thing to go to someone you know and potentially really care about and find it as a friend or whatever and say, you got to go. I think that's really hard to put the sport, the team over, like the sporting project over your individual relationships. I don't think the only time they've ever had to do that is with Phil Neville. And, there was other reasons that was able to happen. Miami King says, we are in the 7th spot in the Eastern Conference. That's true. 23 points. Is there a concern about us making the playoffs? Right now, we have a game in hand on everyone ahead of us, except even if we win that game in hand, it only takes us up to 6th in the Eastern Conference. We do get Montreal, who is the game in hand, I guess. Everyone plays this week, so it'll be sometime later in the season. But then we get Columbus, and so there's a real chance that we finish this week in 8th or 9th if we don't play well. Are you concerned about making the playoffs?
Yeah, you can't take anything for granted. Absolutely not. Not with the form that we're in right now. We have to win every single game practically to guarantee that. And I am concerned about the playoff spot. I'm going to be honest, because this team has not put together a run of performances in a long time. And yes, we have Montreal, but are you 100% certain that we're going to get that result? Are you 100% certain we're going to beat Columbus? What happens after that? What happens after we come back from the Club World Cup? Because the performances in the Club World Cup could really affect the mentality of this team as well. So there's a lot, man. There's a lot to think about, and it might get a really murky situation if we're struggling to make the playoffs, because that's when it's going to really start hitting home.
I don't think we're going to miss. You know what it is?
They
would. No. They will. That's not going to happen because
they'll fire Mascherano before. Yeah.
Right. Mascherano will get fired way before that. Here's what I go back to. Making the CONCACAF Champions Cup next season is like a line in the sand. I pulled it up. Basically, if you win the MLS Cup, you get a spot. if you come in either first, second, or third in the Leagues Cup, you get a spot. And then it's just the next 4 in the Supporter Shield table. So really, if you want to guarantee your spot, you're talking about having to be a top 3 team, maybe top 4 team overall in the entire league. And if not, you're going to have to do something incredible in a tournament, really go far in either the Leagues Cup or win the MLS Cup. This team does not look like they're going to finish top 4 in the Supporter Shield table. That is, I don't think you can let Mascherano go long enough that you really risk that. So maybe it's, if you don't do it at the Leagues Cup, then it's time for a change. But they will certainly move on from Mascherano before the playoffs are at risk, I would imagine. I cannot imagine them not like firing him and really bringing in some real heavy hitters in the summer transfer window if next year's CONCACAF Champions Cup is sort of at risk. So I will say that has to be a line in the sand for this team. And so I'm not worried about making the playoffs. I'm not.
Yeah, actually, that's a good way to look at it, and I agree with you. I think before that happens, there's a lot more that needs to. There's a lot that will happen before we consider the possibility of not playing in the playoffs. So hopefully, the management or the front office thinks the same way that we do.
Is there anything else you want to talk about that's on your mind? You haven't had a chance to get into the mic and get some Heron therapy for the last week and a half. Anything else you want to talk about?
Honestly, it's good to be away from the situation when the team's not performing well. But no, I enjoyed this episode. I think it was a slightly condensed episode, but a different format, but got us some good awards and some good talking points. I think the more we talk about it, the more repetitive it'll get. So I think we had a good conversation to at least take us to the next game against Montreal.
A couple of great awards as well given by me, and I really appreciate myself for that. Saur, thank you so much for finally returning. Everyone else, we will see you 1 hour before kickoff for the pregame show. Inter Miami takes on Montreal Wednesday night. It's in South Florida, so a normal time, no West Coast trips this week. And until then, guys, I hope you have a lovely night. We'll see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.